Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 12th day, I want to say, of March here. We're just on the cusp of some of the major conference tournaments planned this week here in the NCAA tournament. Danielle Hunter went to Houston, Texas. Man, they are loaded. I may touch on that in their roster here in a little bit. That was a late-breaking story here. Aaron Rodgers picked as a potential vice president for RFK on the, I think it's like a no labels independent ticket here. May touch on that a little bit later as well. How fit matters. It's all about fit, folks. You got to have a good fit here. Going to talk about that as well. And of course, Rich Ferris. Rich Ferris will be in from Cumulus Titans Radio. He will be in to talk about the Tennessee Titans free agency. They've been pretty active here, although they don't have a lot of star power. A lot like a Houston Texans has gotten. They've had a really good free agency so far. Haven't overspent. I think they've got a lot of good value picks here. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and take our first and only break. Got a lot of stuff I want to say before Rich comes on. We'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. I'll be back in 49 seconds. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. Alrighty then, now I'm back here live on all links. Okay, so fit is a big deal. As much as I criticized Kirk Cousins yesterday, he's probably going to fit in pretty well with that offense there. He's an older quarterback coming off Achilles injury. They way overpaid him, of course. They've added Darnell Mooney. He's going to be a pretty good fit there. It's good. They're going to run the kind of offense that he's run, a basic pro-style offense here. They're not going to win a big. They may get to the playoffs. They're not going to win big. It was more of a job security type of signing there for the staff and management. But that's a good fit. You look at the Steelers sign rival free agent linebacker Patrick Queen out of Baltimore. I was watching him. I actually watched the first half today. Again, I have it recorded, of the AFC Championship game between the Ravens and Kansas City. Man, him and Roquan Smith all over the place. Ravens probably felt like they couldn't play two linebackers, so they let him walk here, and they'll probably get a compensatory pick for Patrick Queen. But he goes to the Steelers. The Steelers, same division, aggressive defense, a lot of big playmakers around him. Very similar setup there. He's going to fit in really well with the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Probably one of the better fits of the free agent draft here. But then you get a guy like a Derrick Henry. You get a guy like a Derrick Henry, former Tennessee Titan. And again, just watched the AFC Championship game over. Probably the third time I've watched it. Because, I for one thing, I thought it was a clinic that Mahomes put on in that game. I was more impressed with that than the Super Bowl. 11 catches for Kels, whether he's doing PEDs or not. That was still really good. Those were well drawn up plays and well executed plays with people all over Mahomes, and him still being able to complete the ball to a well covered in multiple occasions to a well covered Travis Kelce here, And the main reason I watched that is I wanted to make sure that before I made an opinion on this Derrick Henry signing to the Ravens, a lot of people was going on about that signing. Would that be a good fit? Well, the first play of the game, yeah, I thought that's going to be a good fit here. Lamar Jackson's under center. He's under center, and he gives the ball. I think it was a guy named Winston Justice, I think is his name. Really small running back. Got a good game here. But most of the time, he was in the shotgun doing read option plays. That's not going to work with Derrick Henry. That was one of the biggest issues with the Titans' offensive line as of late. Henry couldn't get any mo going. Giving the ball to a guy like Derrick Henry that big and asking him to juke a little bit with no momentum at all, that's not going to work. Now, maybe they will adjust the offense, put Lamar under center, more snaps here, and put him back at an I formation, get him 3-4 yards back, let him take a few steps before he takes the ball rather than taking the ball from a complete stop and running like that. So I don't think that's a good fit. 2 years, $16 million contract, that $8 million a year. Cowboys claimed that they want him, but they didn't want to pay that much here for Derrick Henry. So he ends up signing with the Ravens. Just simply do not think that's a good pick. Him playing with the Ravens like that is like Peyton Manning running a read option. Occasionally, Peyton Manning could pull off the naked bootleg where he does the fakes to the running back, and then he runs. I guess they call it naked because he don't have any blockers. He runs to the other side as the defense is chasing the running back because they think he's got the ball and in for the touchdown. He can't do that all game long. So I don't think that's a good fit. And what is really going to be crucial for all these free agent signings in the NFL, and of course, also in some cases more important, a lot of people are putting more emphasis in the draft, is fit. How well does this player fit? I remember Darrelle Revis. At one time, one of the best, the absolute most dominant cover cornerback in the NFL for a time period there, I don't know, 2008 to 2012, something like that, where he was just totally somebody who played daily fantasy during those years. You could not cover this guy, or you would not put a receiver against him if you're playing fantasy. But then he went on to Tampa, and he played off man. Played a lot of zone, play off man. He was terrible. He was nowhere near as effective. Now, of course, he was later on in his career where he wasn't that pure cover corner. He was more of a press man, man-to-man, I'm taking Revis Island type of guy. You can keep me on island here. I own it. But so a lot of fit, scheme. That's a big deal when making your pickups here in the free agency bid here. Okay. Listen, so Jimmy Garoppolo was he will be released tomorrow. The Raiders will release the 29-year-old player there, and he also read he's going to be suspended for the first 2 games for PED usage. Okay, now you talk about an ideal backup. This guy, as of late, he cannot. That's why the 49ers moved over. The guy cannot finish seasons, okay? He gets hurt here in the last few years. It's every year. He's either playing through an injury, that has really affected his play, or he's not playing at all because the injury is so overwhelming that he's not going to be able to continue, and the backup's going to be in there. But for 3 or 4 games, he is as good as anybody is in this league. Remember how quick he picked up the 49ers offense, Jimmy Garoppolo. How quick he picked up that offense, being traded around the trade deadline. They played well down the stretch, and the 49ers decided to give him that big $100 million plus extension that off season. And before you know it, they got to the Super Bowl in 2019. And, they were 3 quarters. They outplayed the Kansas City Chiefs then, led by Raheem Mostert. But since then, the guy's hurt all the time. But my thing is, he would be an ideal backup for somebody. And the fact that he's getting suspended the first 2 games, you can get a Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup for $4 to $7 million, maybe 10 max. But the fact that he's already suspended 2 games, you're only paying him for 15 instead of 17 games. Yeah, I think you could get this guy for about $7 million. And he, you see a team with a rookie quarterback like a Bryce Young, who's known to be brittle. I want to say Young missed the game last year. It was almost he was banged up last year. By the way, they just got Deontay Johnson in a trade. There must be some character flaws with Johnson, because the Steelers traded him for a 6th and a 7th round pick, Deontay Johnson, to the Carolina. That was a big pickup. This guy's in his prime. He's still very young. And but going back to Jimmy Garoppolo, put a guy like a Jimmy Garoppolo in there, and or Will Levis, who was the Titans, has been banged up. You would love to put a Garoppolo in there as a backup. You could probably get him for dirt cheap. So this guy, he'd be a great fit as a backup. Nobody's taking him as a starter now. I mean, unless somebody's hurt and you're in an emergency situation here. So, again, that's a good fit for him, especially if it's an offense that is suitable to him, which is most pro-style NFL offenses. Okay. Had a little bit more time than I thought. That's an interesting story here. All right. Now, wow, Houston's going to be looking really good, man. I'm going to have to ask Rich about that a little bit later. Woo. Okay. Aaron Rodgers. We know Aaron Rodgers to be a guy that is a little bit different. Does his own thing. I've always liked the guy. Now, sometimes Rodgers can be, when he was with Green Bay, he come off like he was trying to be a team player, but not really. And he's taking all the cash flow, knowing it's hard to get to maxing out on money, knowing it's hard to get free agents. If he would have been like Brady and took less, maybe he's sitting at 3 and 4 Super Bowls, and he's higher up in the food chain of greatest quarterback of all time list. That being said, one of the better talents of all time, Aaron Rodgers. He was, he kind of played some word games with the COVID vaccine. I'm not one to say to force anybody to get that vaccine. I've had a friend of mine that I told it was heavy set. He's had some health problems. Good guy I grew up with. I told him he probably should get this vaccine, even if it is somewhat experimental. But I'm not going to tell everybody to get that thing. And I was okay with his stance on that. And I understand this Robert Kennedy's big into that as well. But now a story came out today, according to the New York Times, Pro Football Talk is reporting that Robert F. Kennedy, who's running for president as an independent, has confirmed to Rebecca Davis O'Brien of the New York Times that Aaron Rodgers is on the top list of his for vice presidents, along with former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura. Kennedy told the Times that he had been talking pretty continuously with Rogers over the past month. A representative for Rogers did not immediately respond to comment from the Times. The Jets did not respond for comment. They want this story to go away. Yeah, that's the last thing. We're going to be in a very highly contested election. That's why you got Sports Scope to escape all that. If I'm Rogers, I immediately, now maybe he comes on McAfee tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe he'll do a special guest appearance. I'm telling him, you know what? I appreciate the offer. Me and him's good friends. Got a lot of respect for Mr. Kennedy. There's no way I would do that. Plus, if you're a Jets fan, you don't even want this to be a distraction. You know, if I'm Rodgers, I don't want my career to end like that. As hard as he's worked to get back from that Achilles injury, you would hate to see a guy like Rodgers walk away from football and try to run as a third party for that sounds like such a joke. There's absolutely no experience there. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the publicity. Starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he should shut this down pretty quickly, you know. And the idea of, and I know that Jesse Ventura's had some success. That was also in this article. Former wrestler. He was a mayor. We all know he's governor of Minnesota at one time. And, but, you know, you have to state that to really be taken serious in that realm of things, I would say you have to stay with that a long time. After post-career, I could see Rodgers doing something like that. He's into those psychedelics and all that. I wouldn't get involved in that. Not publicly, maybe privately if I wanted to be in with the candidate. I like Michael Jordan's stance on it. He was saying, listen, that just wasn't my energy to do that sort of thing at that time. I was watching The Last Dance over again over the weekend. And that's such a great, what was it? I think it's a 4-part documentary on the final season there with the Bulls when they won that 6th championship. And just that outside pressure for him to support a political candidate just because he's Michael Jordan and black and all that, and it's somebody from his home state and all that. That's saying that I'm supposed to jump on your calls, whether I know you or not, because I'm a certain race, gender, and this. I mean, that's ridiculous, you know. But anyways, I guess what I'm saying is, that story's got quite a buzz. That happened late in the afternoon. Aaron Rodgers possibly picked as a vice president candidate for Robert Kennedy Jr. I'm sure the Jets do not want him doing campaign speeches and still trying to be the quarterback. I hope he doesn't try that with Mr. Johnson, the Jets owner there, or do that to the coaching staff that's on the hot seat like nobody's business, Robert Saleh and his staff. But you never know about Rodgers. He likes to do things his way, like the Frank Sinatra song said. But I thought it was an interesting story. Rodgers will do what Rodgers wants to do. That's how he is. I know he's done psychedelic speeches and seminars and all that, and the retreat thing and everything. He's a different guy. He's been on Joe Rogan's show many of times, but hopefully he's still worried about football at this point. Let that story breathe a little bit. Let that thing develop. My guess is Rodgers will be smart. He will politely shoot this down in the next 24 hours, but who knows? That's one to be continued. Okay. Interesting story here. Okay, now Danielle Hunter, I think he's from like Jamaica originally, but he grew up just outside of Houston. All right. And I read this broke just before I came on. All right. Danielle Hunter, 16 and a half sacks, 29-year-old edge rusher, out of only really bright spot on that Minnesota defense last year. 16 and a half sacks, one of the hotter commodities in the NFL, has decided to sign with the Texans. 2 years, $49 million, 48 of that guaranteed. Baby, that's why the other team shied away. That's a lot of money for an edge rusher now. $48 million guaranteed. That's $24 million a year guaranteed to Hunter. You hope he don't get hurt. Now, of course, they got a lot of great players on, quite a few great players on rookie contracts. One being Will Anderson, the other being obviously the quarterback C.J. Stroud coming into his second year here. Houston has also signed former Titans Dinko Autry. Denico Autry. Now, I didn't know that Autry, former Tennessee Titan edge rusher, was 33 years old. I knew that he had played for the Colts for a while. The Titans signed him out of Indianapolis. Turned out to be a huge, huge signing. Didn't think much of it, but he's turned out to be really good for Tennessee. But 33, you're much more susceptible to injury at that point. Not so sure about that. And they also signed former Titan linebacker Aziz Al-Shir. I thought Titans may re-sign him. He was a former San Francisco player. And Jeff Okudah. Remember, he was the former top 5 pick out of Ohio State. Detroit signed him. Okay. Drafted him out of Ohio State a few years ago. Had some injuries. Never really quite lived up to his draft billing. Basically seen as a bust because he was drafted so high, Okudah. Then he was traded to, last year he was traded to the Falcons. And then, of course, we know what happened. Detroit signed Emmanuel Mosley, signed another guy from Pittsburgh. I can't remember his name. I think it's Sutton. Kev Sutton. Out of Pittsburgh, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as a safety. Now, he went back to Philadelphia, by the way, but he signed last year with Detroit. But anyways, so this guy has signed. There's still some promise there, you know, but he is signed alongside Derek Stingley Jr. Now, Derek Stingley turned out to be a really good pick there out of LSU, cornerback, former first-round pick with Houston. So Houston, excuse me. Oh, sorry about this, folks. My allergies been bothering me, and I've taken more allergy stuff, and it's making me yawn more. So that's the story behind that. Malik Collins at tackle. I mean, this team, you start to think about it with Houston here. That defense looks good, man. Now, if Hunter with that kind of price tag, that's a big price tag right there for a 2-year guy. $24 million a year, fully guaranteed. 2 years, $48 million. Danielle Hunter, one of the better prospects out of this free agent class. Not quite got the hype Burns has got. Burns is 4 years younger. Brian Burns, who was traded to, got a bigger deal, was traded to the New York Giants yesterday. Talked about that one. They got a pretty good defensive line as well. But you've got Hunter and you got Will Anderson. I mean, that's a pass rush right there. That is a well of a pass rush to go along. Remember, this team won 10 games last year. C.J. Stroud, rookie of the year, even though he did miss 2 games with a concussion, won their division and won a playoff game. Won a playoff game with their first year starting quarterback there against Cleveland. And that is a good transition. Rich Ferris from Cumulus Radio that covers the Tennessee Titans has popped up on my screen. Going a little bit out of order, Rich. I gotta ask you, man. You keep up with the South as well. Danielle Hunter has signed with the Texans 2 years, $48 million. Now, that's all guaranteed. That's a big amount of money. You put him aside with Will Anderson, man. What do you think about that?
Well, definitely the Texans are going all in on some defense, which they should. I mean, they're in a spot where they got a great franchise quarterback right now, and primed to take advantage of that because he's on a rookie contract. You don't have to break the bank on him just yet. So you spend money elsewhere, put that, break the bank on other players that you need to, go further than what they did last year in the playoff run with a really good new head coach. A lot of those people that they've signed are familiar with DeMeco Ryans, so it makes sense. And so they're going to look right now they look like a big time contender at the moment.
Do you think they would be favored today to win the division?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, you're right there with me then. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they won it last year.
Yeah.
I don't think Jacksonville's gotten really any better.
Okay.
Tennessee, they're working on some things, but I still think they're a year away before they're really contending. Yeah. And the Colts are kind of on the bubble too, just like the Jaguars, in my opinion.
Man, yeah, I just had to jump to that thing because that broke. I knew Hunter was he's from Houston. He grew up in Houston. He's from Jamaica or something. What I read this afternoon, Rich. But it's been 2 days, legal tampering. What's your thoughts on Ran Carthon, the signing so far?
Well, he's definitely. I mean, the Titans had a lot of needs. He's starting to check those boxes on some of those needs. I wouldn't be surprised here in a few minutes if we don't get some breaking news for some more Titans signing. I know they're on the cusp of either trading for L'Jarius Sneed for the Chiefs. Yeah. They're kind of working on that. They're also working on signing Justin Simmons, safety that was released from the Broncos earlier last week. And I think that they're in the mix to get DJ Reader, defensive lineman that was in Cincinnati. So I think that they're looking to add to their defense as well. I mean, that's where I think they're better off adding this offseason and spending money on defense and do more of the draft on offense just because of the way the draft is playing out. But, huge move with getting Tony Pollard. I think that's a really good fit to go with Tajay Spears. They're kind of the same back in a way. So I think, you have a 1A and 1B, for that new offense that they are going to be a lot more vertical. So having two very good pass-catching running backs that also can run outside, inside, I think is a huge move that wasn't really expecting them to go premier running back. Especially with, a lot of people wanting Henry to be re-signed, although we all kind of knew the writing was on the wall there, and found out today he's, going to enemy territory for a lot of Titans fans.
I'm going to hit you up with that. I'm going to get to that a little bit later. But
okay.
Now, Tony Pollard, that does lead me to, was you a little surprised that they went running back first?
I think that they, looking at it now, it seemed definitely like the running back market was really hot because this draft does not seem like there's a lot of premier running backs in it. I know you're a Tennessee guy. Maybe Jalen Wright might be the top running back, but he's probably going to be a second-round pick. There's not going to be a first-round running back in this draft, I don't think.
No. Bill Yates and those guys.
So I think that a lot of people, that needed a running back, struck while got on, as soon as the clock hit zero, they're out there supposedly making calls in this legal tampering. I think it's a big joke. How are you going to work out a elusive contract in 5 minutes? It's a joke.
10:59.
Yeah, they have,
what's up, dude?
All this deals in place within minutes. It doesn't. You're not fooling anybody. But I think them to I think that was the second running back after Swift signing with the Bears.
With the Bear, yeah,
and then
right on that notification with the X app, like I
working for 104.5 The Zone and Titans Radio, just staying on top of the news. I do a lot of their digital stuff, so pushing out that news as it comes out while the rest of the guys are talking about it on air. And so DeAndre Swift was announced like within minutes, and then probably another 10 minutes after that, Tony Pollard to the Titans.
Yeah. And now, are you concerned about the lack of star power? I know a lot of the fans are thinking that the Titans, all this money. Are you concerned with the lack of star power they brought in?
I wouldn't say star power. I mean, they're taking care of needs with really good players. Like their center that they signed to a big contract, Cushenberry.
Yeah,
Lloyd Cushenberry that's a huge sign. I mean, they needed a center, they needed some offensive line help, and getting a really good. And the other thing too, the people they're signing are fairly young. Like I said, they're kind of in this rebuilding phase where I don't necessarily see them contending next year. So you want to get guys that you can build this up with, and in 2 years, 3 years, make a run at a Super Bowl. But I think Cushenberry is a huge get. And the linebacker that they got later on yesterday, I think he's
Kenneth Murray.
He's not proven. He's an extremely athletic linebacker. They need a middle linebacker. They lost Aziz Al-Shair, who also signed with the Texans. And I thought that they might been in on Patrick Queen with defensive coordinator. Having ties to him as well as some other Raven defensive players, but that wasn't the case. And they signed this linebacker. He's not really that proven. He's been in the league for a little bit, extremely athletic, and looking probably for a new chance to revitalize his career. I think he was a first round pick, and just for whatever reason hadn't got his game all the way together. So maybe the new defensive coordinator here in Tennessee can help him out. And I don't think they're done there. I think there's a couple of linebackers. I think Jerome Baker's one of them that they may target. That's more of a savvy, guy that's not as athletic, but can play the position, can wear the green dot helmet, call the plays, kind of keep the defense in line, like Aziz Al-Shair did last year. Really good at a lot of things, but not great at a lot of things is Baker. But and then signing Awuzie, the cornerback that was in Cincy.
That was one I really liked.
Yeah, for sure.
He's only 28 too, by the way.
Yeah, and I think he missed a year for injury. I think it was either Achilles or something like that he was out. So he got fully healthy, I think, last year.
Yeah,
and has been solid since. So he's a big addition, very physical. So those type of guys that are kind of hitting their second contract, you're getting them in their prime veteran for these come to a team. Like in the past, you've seen the Titans go through these phases. So if you're, a Titans history, somebody like a Chris Hope is, or like a David Thornton type players, where you're Nate Washington type players that are, these second contracts for them, and it's for them to step up to be a star, and hopefully they're gonna have that success here with the Titans.
And that's what I've been reading on the internet and stuff. People are disappointed, but I got to thinking, I was a little down about it, but I got to thinking, okay, wait a minute. The last time I had these thoughts, the Titans signed a guy like a Chris Hope, and they ended up getting the playoffs that next year, if you recall.
Yeah, they had a really good run with that group.
Players.
Yeah, for sure.
David Thornton, man. Great, man. You got a great member. We're right on the same page. Yeah, would they just sign some players? They're not huge name. They're not air quote marquee. And the old adage is you don't want to really jump on that first wave anyways, because usually you got a lot of guys that are they're overpaid. They don't really live up to it. Not all. Sometimes some guys really pan out. Big for day one guys. But
I think what's key for the Titans right now is not getting to a situation where you are breaking the bank for some solid players, and then when you're primed to make a run to the Super Bowl, then you get in cap space and have to kind of shake up your roster in the middle of of being primed for a championship. So I think they're trying to find those players that are good, and they are spending some money. They have plenty of money to spend. You just kind of hope that and it seems like so far that they're not breaking the bank. For when they are ready to be competitive in the division.
So you're saying that they could get a guy like you mentioned Justin. That's the highest rated safety on the market, right?
Well, they were trying to get in on C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He went back to the Eagles.
Yes,
and so I think Justin Simmons, in my opinion, Justin Simmons is more solid. He's a little bit older, but he hasn't been injured prone like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So, I like that move. I actually like Justin Simmons a little bit better than C.J. Gardner, but there's a lot of secondary guys out there that they definitely need to add a safety. So somebody like him would be great for a younger team that's going to be next year.
Yeah, and Simmons he was a $18 million cap hit for Simmons with Denver there. So that would be huge right there.
And if they end up making this trade for L'Jarius Sneed, I mean, then you would have him, Awuzie, and if they sign Justin Simmons, then you got Amani Hooker. That's a really good secondary, along with Roger McCreary as your nickel guy. That's a young guy that's going into his third year.
That would be huge. I mean, especially Carthon being a former running back himself, and him getting a last call here. Are you surprised they haven't made more push for maybe a Jonah Williams at right tackle?
Well, I hope they're not. I think Jonah Williams is not that good.
Who's a right tackle? Wiley or whatever his name is?
I think they may have tried to get. I think it was a couple of reports saying they were in, and a couple they weren't with the right tackle. That was from the Patriots. So I can't even pronounce his last name, Ounye or something like that.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Amanu or something like that. That it ended up being back in New England. So I think honestly, I think in the draft they're at 7 that they take a left tackle. Yes. Then you got your left guard. You signed a good center, and they on the right side they have a bunch of guys in house that maybe if you don't add there, you might be okay for a year because you have several guys that you're just trying to figure out, like a Nicholas Petit-Ferrer. You have a second-round pick in Dylan Radins you got to figure out.
He's the guy they got from Ohio State in the third round a few years ago.
Yeah, Nicholas Petit-Ferrer is who they drafted from Ohio State.
Yeah.
So, you got him still on the roster. You still got Daniel Brunskill, veteran guy that came over from San Francisco last year. Yeah. He's still on the roster. And you also got Jalen Duncan, who was a 6th, 7th round pick from last year. So you have, 4 guys there on the right side. You could probably, have in competition if you don't bring anybody else in. Or, if they double down and draft a, that side of the line, guy, then you even have more added competition there.
Okay. So you don't think that they're going to draft. Do you think Petit-Ferrer is going to win that right tackle?
I think it's a little too early to tell. I mean, the good thing is they have Bill Callahan now as the offensive line coach, who's revered across the league. Yeah. And so maybe he can, help one of these guys become, a good starter. Maybe not necessarily an all-pro or anything, but somebody that could be really good that can, take care of this season and they can address it next year if they need to.
So, what this tells me now, it's still early. It tells me that they're saying that they like what they got at right tackle because there's some right tackles out there. Jonas, what's his name? Williams from Cincinnati.
Yeah, Jonah Williams.
Yeah, Williams. Remember, he moved from left to right because they signed Orlando Brown, and he hasn't. There's no tag on him. He could be signed anywhere. Mm-hmm. So
I'm not a big fan of Jonah Williams.
Okay.
Cincinnati's had a tremendous amount of trouble on their offensive line, and he was a big part of that.
Okay.
Giving up a lot of sacks. He was, for Titans fans, was one of the guys that in the playoff game with the Bengals that allowed, I think, 4 sacks that game.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there was 9 total on Joe
Now,
Burrow that game.
Was that on the left side?
He was playing left side then, and they moved him to right after they signed Orlando Brown.
He was really good at right tackle last year.
I think he was just okay. And I think he still allowed a lot of sacks. And so I think they could do better and not spend the money there on him. I think they could easily, work out a competition in-house, address it in the draft, or maybe sign another veteran. But I'm not very big fan of his at the moment.
Yeah, I got you, man. But that's food for thought here. But the idea that they have not addressed right tackle tells me that maybe they do like what they got so far.
Possibly.
We know left tackle's a different animal, but
Yeah, I mean, if they end up signing like a Tyron Smith or somebody, then we probably know what they're going to do with that 7th overall pick. And maybe they do draft a offensive. And if they do something like that, maybe they draft a later, in the second round, a Marius Mims or somebody that may fall there, or Morgan forgot his name, from Arizona. He's somebody that you could probably get in the second round. And Morgan Jordan is what I'm trying to think.
Latham can play right tackle from Alabama, but that would be probably a first-round guy.
Yeah, unless they trade back, then they could possibly do something like that.
We was just talking the draft here, Chad, or talking free agency. I'm like you though, like we talked before. I really hope that they land Joe Alt.
Yeah, I mean that's my number one guy. Unless for some wild reason Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, I think they go Joe Alt. If he's not there, they go Fashanu from Penn State.
Yes.
Or they may take a receiver there and then go tackle, and it just depends on how free agency pans out here.
Yeah. Are you surprised they haven't went receiver yet in free agency?
I know they're kicking the tires on some guys, and they're trying to. I don't think there's a lot of solid wide receivers, but I don't know if there's really anybody I would want to just spend a lot of money on. I mean,
no T. Higgins.
Well, I mean, you got to trade for him because he's got a franchise tag. He's going to cost a lot, not only draft capital but money, which I'm fine with. But they don't have a lot of draft capital at the moment.
No.
And if they're trying to trade for L'Jarius Sneed right now, that's going to be probably some draft compensation as well. There's the kind of rumors out there is maybe it's a 3rd rounder, but they don't have a 3rd rounder, so I'm not sure exactly where. Unless it's a 2025 pick, which that's totally fine with me. But I think that they don't have a lot of draft capital to just make a ton of trades at the moment.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that they would possibly trade a DeAndre Hopkins, who's going to be a big cap hit this year, for a Sneed? Or could you think maybe they could sneak a 2nd or 3rd round out of Kansas City for a Hopkins? But I don't know about a 3rd round, though. Don't you think he's still going to – they're going for it this year. Did you see what they gave Chris Jones?
Yeah, he deserved it. I mean, he's the best defensive tackle in the league.
29, though.
Yeah.
5 years, brother.
He's been, top 1, 2, 3 defensive tackle in the league for a while, but with him and Aaron Donald and Jeffrey Simmons.
Yes,
but yeah, I could maybe see D-Hop being a trade piece there for L'Jarius Sneed. I don't know if I don't know if I would want to add draft compensation to that.
No, just the trade straight up.
Just straight up Hopkins for L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah. You think they'd bite on that?
I don't know because
they'd probably want another pick, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would want to do that just because then you don't have any receivers, so you better have a plan there.
Yeah.
I think D-Hop is fine staying here, though.
That's the only thing that's holding me back from really pressing that take. Darnell Mooney's already signed. Now, Calvin Ridley's still out there, but I'm just wondering, you think there may be a red flag, another red flag on Ridley? I wonder why he hasn't signed yet.
Well, I think he's going back to the Jaguars. I think
Okay.
the Patriots are a team right
They're
behind
in
him.
it, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
kind of getting into a bidding war from what I'm seeing. So I think with Calvin Ridley, he is. I don't think people want to pay a premium for him. He's been kind of inconsistent. He was really good early in his career with Atlanta. Then of course went through the gambling issues, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
finally was in Jacksonville last year. Who had a decent season.
Yeah.
I just think that maybe a few people or a few teams that are needing a wide receiver like that just are cautious of what they want to spend on him.
Mhm.
But I think he's be a great number 2 somewhere. But maybe here in the Titans, I could see I could see that, but I don't know if they want to spend that kind of money on somebody like him.
Yeah, that's true. There's really no dominant number 1 out there if you really think about it. Higgins was
I would still keep an eye on if for Titans targets. I'd still keep an eye on Tyler Boyd, obviously
That's a
from
slot
the
guy,
Bengals. Yeah, that they have some familiarity with. I think there's a ton of those second and third tier wide receivers that I think they could get a few that could that could help you out, and you still draft a wide receiver in the first or second round, and I think you'd be set then. But for at least a year, Justin Jefferson would be an incredible haul. I don't think that
they would want that 7th pick for that.
100%. I mean, and then you'd have to pay him probably like $30-40 million a year. And
I actually read that today that he turned down $30 million.
Yeah.
I would trade him. I'm telling you guys, you and Chad, whoever else, I would trade Jefferson and get a high draft. He's going to work. They've already got Jordan Addison. There's no way I'm paying Jefferson that kind of money. Would you pay him that kind of money?
I mean, I think you got to look at, is that kind of money going to be still expensive in 2 or 3 years, or is it going to be fine? Like we're seeing with a $30 million cap jump this year, and you're seeing, there's a lot of offensive linemen getting paid pretty heavily. Even the Titans center that they just signed got a pretty heavy amount of money. So it's kind of like, well, is this a trend that, it won't be a big deal in a few years if you sign somebody like him that's the best wide receiver in the league? I don't know. Yeah. But I think he's going to want to go to somewhere that's got a quarterback. And, I mean, somebody like Will Levis, I think, would be great with him because he's a gunslinger. Yeah. But would he want to make that move to a team that's not ready to compete yet? I don't know.
Yeah.
In the prime of his career?
Is, brother. It could change it. Will Levis could have a great camp. The whole thing could turn. Who thought C.J. Stroud? I knew he'd be pretty good. I didn't think he'd be that good.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And, it just kind of sucks as a Titans fan that they really tried to, jump up there and get him and just couldn't.
Remember? Yeah, we talked about it, I think. Yeah. Yeah, so it's I tell you, man, and Derrick Henry, my first reaction, not being a hater, I'm just telling you guys, I watched the first half of the AFC Championship again. I got it recorded between Kansas City and Baltimore. Not too many snaps from center there. I don't know if the read option with a guy that big is going to work really well with Henry in Baltimore.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, especially with Henry not being. I mean, he's still. I don't want to say that he's going to slow down. I think they just had a terrible. I mean, obviously they had a terrible line this year.
Yes,
and he still was the second leading rusher, and had 12 or 13 touchdowns. So I mean, with that offensive line and that scheme, I think he'll still be fine. But I don't think that you would want to do that a lot because they're going to load up the box. However, having Lamar
run. I'm like,
having Lamar there though, I mean, who you gonna if you load up the box? I mean, you're gonna have to either gang tackle Derrick Henry or chase down Lamar. I mean, that's a pretty dual threat.
What would you think about that? I thought he would have been a better fit in Dallas personally, but that's just me, Well,
I was hoping to go to Dallas because being a Titans fan, you can't stand the Ravens, but
that's That's what I thought too, man. I don't want to give them anything. They already got Derek Mason. They got Steve McNair. What do they want from us, man?
Yeah, I seen somebody post on Twitter about it being a flat circle. It's like, some of your Titans greats going to Baltimore for some reason is just continues to happen. And Henry living in Dallas, in the offseason, I think his wife's from there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's I'm pretty sure she's from Texas and probably the Dallas area, and they're expecting another baby. So they just recently bought a home there, and not to necessarily say that was my reason why I think Dallas Cowboys was going to be, but with them not having any running backs right now, I think the only running back they got on the roster is the guy from Kansas State from last year, the little short guy.
Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, Deuce Vaughn, whose dad coaches there.
And plus, he's running behind. They run more of a traditional pro-style offense. Dak's not in the shotgun 1,000 times a game.
Yeah,
like Lamar is.
And that's why I thought too that it was a good fit. But I think the Baltimore style is obviously a great fit for Henry, and
yeah,
and they have a fullback, all pro fullback. They have a beefy offensive line that's pretty good, and so he's those two offenses are, I think, both fit for him. Although Dallas throws the ball a ton, and so I think that might have factored in as well.
Yeah, and Jerry said it was too rich. He wants to pay all that money to Dak, $60 million. Dak Prescott, go figure. Yeah, let me ask you this, man. Have you ever seen a player make more money and actually accomplish less than Kirk Cousins? $300 million. I mean, this dude is unbelievable, man.
I feel like I've read somewhere that he's made more salary money than Tom Brady.
Is that what you read?
Yeah. And with no championships, obviously, to show for, I think he's
playoff win, guys.
One playoff win. I mean, I really like Kirk Cousins, and I think he's a really good quarterback. But yeah, I mean, the wins aren't there, and it's easy to put that on the quarterback. But Minnesota's had their opportunities, and I think that one playoff win was the crazy New Orleans game, right?
It was,
or the missed tackle that Diggs kept running into the end zone. They shouldn't have won that game. So
about not getting the ball enough in that game, if you recall.
Yeah. So a kind of not to say a spoof win, but they shouldn't have won that game. That they did win. So
he's under 500 in primetime games. I read that the other day. I looked that stat up.
But I mean, I don't know if you watched what was the Netflix series? Was it just Quarterback? Or
I love that.
It was great, and you get to insight on him and his character, and you kind of like really like the guy. Yeah. But he was getting hit a ton in Minnesota. I think he might be able to avoid some of that in Atlanta. I think they got a little bit better offensive line.
Yeah.
And they got some good young targets. I mean, and they just signed somebody else too, right?
Mooney.
Yeah, so I mean, they got a really good young offense.
Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Robertson at running, but they're going to be good. My thought was that they signed him. I forgot the coach's name, Raheem Morris, and management there. That's job security, because he'll probably get you the division, but he's not gonna win you a Super Bowl.
Yep, that makes sense.
Chad asked about this. RFK, there was a report out to RF Kenny, is possibly going to pick Aaron Rodgers to be his vice president.
He's just,
That's a hard pass, right?
I mean, he wants to. I mean, if he's wanting to market his campaign, I mean, that's a good way of doing it, I guess. And I feel like Aaron probably fits right in with him. So, I think they have a lot of similar thoughts there. But that's very interesting. I haven't seen that yet. So
it broke this afternoon, and Jesse the Body Ventura is on Kennedy's short list as an independent. Kennedy seems like a nice guy. I don't know. I mean, Rodgers don't have the experience, and Ventura he's big into these conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
I guess you could say the same with Kennedy.
Yeah, I mean, politics isn't my thing. I keep up with it, but yeah, I think that's interesting.
Somebody Ventura, you
yeah, he was yeah, for sure. And he was governor of Minnesota for a long time, and
in the late 90s.
And yeah, he kind of. I mean, I don't know. There's so many crazy conspiracy stuff going on out there that it's hard to know what's real and what's not. But
yeah.
But yeah, Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure he'll find his way to, after his football career of doing something to keep his name out there.
Yeah. Pro Football Talk said they reached out, and his camp, nor did the Jets, got back. If I'm right,
I'm sure the Jets are hating that kind of news right now.
No, man, let's cut this off right now, bro.
He's only played 4 snaps for them or 5 snaps total.
Running out with the flag and everybody's crazy, and then 4 snaps later.
Yeah.
I hope he shuts this down. I'm sure he'll go on McAfee tomorrow, and
probably.
I like him. He's a good guy. You know how he is. He just we talked about it, but I'm not going to do that. Or what if he says he's going to try to do that and play for the Jets too? That'll be a circus, right?
What was it that I seen about the Jets that it kind of had a fun. It's not really funny, but it's an interesting spin about with being in New York. I know you lived in New York,
Kenny,
and with 9/11, and it took a Muslim head coach to bring together New York fans of the Jets. It's a lot of interesting kind of things that that happened that with them being the New York Jets, you know what I mean? So it's have a Muslim head coach, so who's a great coach, and I think if they didn't have those injuries, they would have been right in the mix last year.
Yeah, and they lost their Huff to the Eagles. We'll see what happens. They need a tackle.
The Eagles getting Saquon is huge for them.
Don't you think they should have kept DeAndre Swift? I mean, Saquon costs more. Well,
yeah, but I think they maybe they're looking at, hey, we don't need to have 3 running backs doing all the same stuff. We get one premier guy.
Okay.
That's a bigger guy that can. Maybe they're going to change up their offense a little bit, be more physical. I don't know. I mean, he's a good pass catcher too. I think that's definitely an upgrade from him and Swift. Now Swift going to Chicago. Chicago's got to be one of the most intriguing.
He's better than Herbert, don't you think?
Was that?
You like Herbert better than Swift? I like Swift. Swift had a great year last year, man.
He did, but he kind of, just like the rest of the Eagles team, kind of tailed off at the end of the year. I don't know why. They just kind of fell apart a little bit.
Both coordinators, I think they got rid of both of them, now that I think about it.
Yeah, I think they did, because it seemed like their head coach was on the hot seat, and he got with the GM and was like, no, not me. I'll get rid of these guys if you want me to.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
And I feel like their offensive coordinator is a pretty known name. I just can't think of it at the moment.
Well, I know they got Vic Fangio with their defense, right?
Yeah, and he's been around for a while and pretty good coach.
Yeah. Eagles, they're going to be interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with them. Keelan Moore. Yeah.
Former quarterback.
Yeah.
That
OC.
Yep. Yeah.
Chargers. They think big. They go star with.
I don't know if any division swaps players and coaches more than the NFC East. It's kind of funny in a way.
I was saying something about their head coach, the Eagles head coach, and his name slips my mind.
Nick Sirianni.
Who?
Nick Sirianni.
Sirianni. Nick Sirianni.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me of Joe Judge a little bit. of the Giants, arguing with. He almost got in the fight with players.
He's the type of dude that seems like can't get out of his own way, and I don't like him very much because he just
He's
seems
got a smart mouth, don't he?
You know, it seems like, ever since I've seen Jalen Hurts of all people having to like corral his head coach a few times, it's just kind of like, come on, dude, be a professional.
Yeah, he is. Once they removed that security guy that was coming on the field. And he almost got jumped on 2 or 3 times with the player. He was arguing back with the players. So he's got some kind of temperament issues.
Not to be cliche, but I know he's very proud Italian guy. So it might run in his blood a little bit to have a little bit of attitude and a little bit of of that kind of nature. And being from, and I think he's from the Northeast. So
What you say? What you say? Remember,
I think he is from Philly.
That was an issue with Joe Judge. He almost got into it with his offensive line coach.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't be that fiery. You got to be professional and let some of that stuff go. And that's the one thing that was good about having Mike Vrabel here. Is like he wouldn't allow any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He was in charge, and nobody was going to question that.
Yeah, I would. Some people ask me, I would have gave Mike another year.
Yeah, I would have too.
It was premature, man.
Even now,
I like your new graphics you're putting up for your show. Has your show time changed, Big Tan and Rich?
Yeah, we moved to Wednesday nights to get it there in the middle of the week to get ahead of a little bit of the, the more of the weekly podcasts and stuff, so that it's out Thursday morning, late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. You can check it out. Big Tan and Rich on all those platforms where you get your podcasts. So we've been kind of working on testing out some of this AI stuff and creating these graphics really quickly to help us promote our shows and whatnot. And we've been having fun with it. Yeah.
What are y'all going to talk about? Do you have anything in mind yet?
Tomorrow night we'll probably talk about some NFL free agency. So we'll probably hit that. With my other 2 counterparts are one's a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, the other's a New Orleans Saints fan. So a lot to talk about there with Tampa making some moves, a lot of just re-signings, and New Orleans they've done a couple moves, but not a lot. I know they doing a lot of restructuring because they were I think second or third from the bottom of having they were negative in cap space. It's not as bad as Buffalo was, but they were pretty low there on cap space.
Yeah. The Bucs re-signed Levante David, but the bigger news is they brought back Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, who got paid a good chunk.
Mayfield got a good contract. That was a fair contract.
Yeah, I mean that's another linebacker out there that Devin White that I think he's still a free agent.
Really?
I'm pretty sure he's still out there.
Titans can pick him up, former LSU player.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely a very speedy, athletic guy that
I didn't know he was a free agent. You got me there, brother. Wow.
I'm pretty sure he is.
You know what? I wonder why Tennessee didn't get Patrick Queen. He was a former Baltimore Raven.
Yeah, now going to the Steelers, which I've seen some funny back and forth with Ravens his former teammates.
Yeah.
And Geno Stone also, he was another one I thought might come here, to come along with the defensive coordinator being his D-backs coach. So, but ended up in Cincinnati, too. So a lot of, AFC North in division, free agency changes, going to different teams in that division.
Yeah. They got Russell Wilson and Joey Porter Jr. That's going to be a good defense next year. The Ravens or the Steelers, excuse me.
Yeah, getting Patrick Queen definitely helps make that defense a little younger. If they get TJ Watt back fully healthy, and I guess Cam Hayward's still playing. I don't know if he retired.
Yeah. He's still out there.
They got some good young linebackers.
Micah Fitzpatrick at safety.
Yeah, I can't think of they got that on the other side of TJ Watt. They got a pretty good outside linebacker. I just can't think of his name. And Minka Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr. So Yeah, they got some solid. They've got a good mix of young guys and veterans.
Man, I'm glad I don't have to play in that division. Woo!
Yeah,
A weak link in that division, man. So, Rich Ferris, appreciate you always coming on, brother. I'll definitely hit you up, especially if something big happens between now and I definitely got to bring you on after that draft, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Have a good night. Thank you, Chad.
Thanks, everybody.
See you, man. See you, bud. All right, everybody. I will be back tomorrow with Keith Engel. Keith Engel will be on. Going to ask Keith about the college basketball tournament here. Who's his number one seed going to be? You know, we got the conference tournaments today. Well, some of they'll be tomorrow. They'll start tomorrow. Of course, they'll all in on Sunday. You got Selection Sunday coming up on Sunday. I'm a little over here, but Rich is always great to talk to. So don't tune in tomorrow, 7:30 as well, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. And you're right, Chad, I'm still recovering from time change myself. It usually comes a little bit later. I'm still trying to wake up here. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Otherwise, same time, same place here on Sports Code.